Okay. Are we live? I think we're live. All right. We are back. And yeah, we're live. Hey, Minaj. Thanks for joining. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started. And people are welcome to come and join if they want to get in on the fun. So, yesterday when we left this, we had a working version to a point where if I ran the game, it would bring up the screen, and I ended up downloading a whole bunch of different pack files, but when you tried to run something, it would just error out. Oops. So I think I've got a couple of things that we can try to make this work, and I'm going to go through them this morning. So let's get back to the code. And the thing that really was something that I noticed yesterday was the GIF images weren't loading. And we did a whole bunch of different things. We looked at to see if the files existed, if they were actually GIF files, and everything was fine there. So really, there's something in the code it's causing this to kind of lock up, and I think I've found it. So just bear with me while I get some notes that I wrote yesterday. So there's a function called load image, and there's a function that's called read GIF, and I think that's where the error message that we were getting was causing the problem. And I put a whole bunch of debug in here to see what was going on, and I found that the height and width of the GIF files that were coming out of the pack file were wrong. So the width would be something like 85,000 pixels, and the height would be 512. You know, the height was correct, but the width was incorrect. So one thing I did notice was if we go to the GIF header definition right here, which is a type of GIF header struct, this is basically the structure when the pack file reads the header, it gets set into this structure here. And if we look at GIF header, see what gets accessed, I think the problem is the size ofs, because of the packing, of the way that that structure is actually being packed. And a hint there is a pragma pack function at the top here somewhere, or a definition at the top for the GIF struct, and I think that's incorrect. So what I'm going to do is, rather than rely on the pragma pack, which I don't even know if it works with GCC on the Amiga, or this version of GCC, I'm going to go ahead and just hard code, for now at least, the size of this thing. And the size of the GIF header struct is calculated by doing something like this. So if you take a look at this, a character is 1 byte, so we've got 6, and then we've got 7 for the flags, 8 for the background, 9 for the aspect. A short is 2 bytes, so that's 11 for the screen width and 13 for the screen height. So by my calculation, the size of this GIF header struct is 13. So I am going to change this for now to 13. And there's also the thing underneath it is the GIF block struct as well. And that gets referenced, and by my calculations, that's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, not 7. So let's find out where that gets referenced. iBlock. That's in load GIF. So I'm going to change this to 9. So yeah, I put a whole bunch of debug in this morning. So now let's go ahead and compile this and see what happens. So as you can see, guys, the previews are now coming up. So it looks like our GIFs are being read and being displayed correctly now. So we never had that happen before. So we've got some progress there. Still got to figure out this color issue, but I think we can make that work. Just reading the comments. Yeah, Campbell, Strix do normally align to largest member, but it seems a little strange to me though that it's working the way it does. I think this is a really early version of GCC. I think it's 2.9 or 2.7, and I know there's some kind of quirky stuff going on with structs and things like that. All right, so let's try load one of these things, see what happens. I'm just going to try the default Beats of Rage. I ended up finding all these different add-ons or different game engine or games to run on the game engine. So I'm just going to try the default one. See what happens. We got something on the screen there. Not sure what that is. It looks like some graphic corruption or something. It's actually still reading the hard drive. I do know that these games have... Oh, there we go. I can actually hear sound effects. Let me turn up the volume a little if I can. You guys hear that? Yeah, so we've definitely got some progress here, guys. I can see the screen. It's obviously not formatted correctly. It looks like it might be some kind of rendering issue. I don't know what kind of screen mode this is. It may be a 32-bit screen mode and it's trying to render an 8-bit screen or something similar to that. So let's see if this actually... gets further. So yeah, you can see my you can see that it's actually working there. Well, that's definitely some progress. Okay. Well, I think that GIF struct problem was the main cause of the breakage. So now we just got to figure out some of these screen mode issues that we're having. Okay. Let's jump out of here. And let's go back to the code. I'm going to kill this just for a sec. The next thing, actually, one thing I should try is, let's try full screen rather than in a window. If I can do that, let me try that. Maybe that'll look better. See if I can change this to full screen. Not sure if that's going to work. Let's try that again. Actually, let me load the game, then try to switch it to full screen. See if that helps. JJ, it's 10 a.m. Local time. I'm in the US at the moment. Well, I live in the US, so whereabouts are you from? Oh, look at that. So going to full screen actually renders it correctly. So that's a cool sign. So maybe it's just an issue with the windowed mode, which, you know, honestly, I don't really care about windowed mode. It's really only for debugging purposes that I would use it. So, hey Mark. Thanks for joining, man. So let's try it again. So it was really just that one fix with the GIF loading that has seemed to have fixed everything. Now, just remember, I am running this on WinUAE, so I don't really know how it's going to run on an Amiga at this point, but I will show you a couple of things that I do to kind of simulate performance on WinUAE, and I will actually, probably won't be today, but maybe the third and final stream for this is I'll pull out some real hardware and we'll test it on that, see what that looks like. But this is looking pretty good. Let me try another one of these expansions or these pack files, something a little different. This is not an emulator, Matthew. This is Beats of Rage, or OpenBOR, which is the Beats of Rage engine. I purposely didn't want to port an emulator because when you start, you know, emulating the CPU and the sound chips and any custom chips, that's when things get really slow. So I figure this has a you know, an okay chance of running on an Amiga. So we'll find out. I'm running the P96 preset, JJ. So this is the Picasso 96 desktop. I think there's one there called P96. I haven't been to that website for a while. So let's try another one. Let's try this Final Fight Apocalypse and see if that works as well. I hope everyone's having a enjoyable Sunday. Yeah, it does take a while to load. I noticed that. I don't know if there's anything we can do about that, but we may take a look at that as well. Right now it looks like it's frozen, but it's actually, I can see the hard drive activity in WinUAE. There we go. Let me switch this to full screen. I wonder if there's a way to turn on full screen by default. Let's try it. Let's turn on the debug info as well. I think the debug info will give us a frame rate. Not sure if that frame rate count is accurate. It says it's 0. But yeah, this is working fine as well. Let's jump out of there. So let's take a look at the mismatch of these colors on this screen here. I think I can fix that pretty easily. So if we go back to our code, I'm sure it's not handling the red, green, blue stuff correctly. So let's go to menu.c, which is the actual menu that gets displayed, and let's take a look at where it allocates the screen. So this is where it creates the menu, and this is the video mode. But I'm looking for something that says, this is how I define RGB. Allocate surface. One thing I can probably try, could probably just try and make it 16 rather than 32. See what that does. Give that a go. Sometimes I just fiddle with different things. Well, that's different. It's still not correct, but it should actually be blue rather than red. So I think it's definitely an issue with red, green, blue. That's definitely looking better. Let's try to figure out where that's actually being set. Let's go back to init menu. Okay, so this is where it sets the video mode and creates the surface, but then there's this PNG to surface function that takes the menu data and it converts it to a SDL surface. So let's take a look at that function and see where that lives. So this is the RGB surface. I wonder if these red, green, blue masks need to be flipped around. Let's try it. Hey guys, I am going to take a quick break. I'm going to be back in 2 seconds. Just give me a sec. I'm going to switch over to this screen. All right, guys, I'm back. Hey, we got a lot of different people around the world. Netherlands, New Zealand, UK. Thanks everyone for joining. Australia. Campbell, I was born and raised in Melbourne, but I live in the US these days. Whereabouts in Australia are you from? Netherlands represent, yo. Awesome. Sweden. Geelong. Man, that's like, I don't remember how far Melbourne to Geelong was, but it was like an hour drive, maybe, hour and a half. That's awesome. I used to live in southeastern suburbs of Australia, in Melbourne, Mount Waverley. I'm sure you've heard of it. Well, it's good to see all the Amiga fans around the world joining this stream. All right, let's. Well, hey Joseph. Right now this is not on Amiga hardware. This is running on WinUAE, obviously. So this may not tell the true story as to what it's going to really run like, but this is really showing how I do port code to the Amiga and my development kind of setup and how that looks like. And I thought I'd just do something fun and show you what goes into porting software to the Amiga and how I go about it. And the cool part is that, you know, if this does run well on real hardware, everyone will get to play it and enjoy it. I'm going to release it, of course, release the source code, release the game, and everyone can have fun with it. Hopefully it performs well, but right now it's really still running on WinUAE. All right, so before I had a little break there, I just changed these red, green, blue masks for the RGB surface. So let's see what that does. Hopefully that will swap those colors around. And there we go. We have... That looks correct to me. I'm pretty sure that's the way it should be looking based on the screenshots and other ports that I've seen. So we got the menu issue sorted out, which is great. So let's see if we didn't break anything in the game by making that change. I don't think we did, but let's just confirm that. I'm going to turn my light on. It's pretty dark in here, guys. That's better. Yeah, looks to be good. Yep, no issues there, so that's good. So I'm not really going to worry about the windowed mode too much because it's not really something that would ever run very well anyway. You really, you know, this needs to be in full screen. So I think I feel pretty good that that piece, the video side, is working well. So now, one thing that I think I want to do is, let's turn debug on again, and turn file logging off. I'm not sure what that does anyway. I want to take a close look at that FPS counter, and because we're running WinUAE with just-in-time, I think it's running so fast it can't even calculate the FPS. So what I'm going to do is, the next thing I like to do is try to simulate performance on slower Amigas. And what I normally do there is I go into the UAE settings and disable just-in-time, and then reduce the CPU speed. And let me try and do that. So I'm going to restart WinUAE and turn off just-in-time and set the CPU speed to about 50%. See, when I did that, you can see the frame rates drop down. But let me restart the WinUAE here. What I'm trying to test for here is how well it would run on real hardware. And this is probably, this is emulation, so it's never going to be, as accurate as real hardware. But what I'm trying to do is try to find out, what would it run like on an 060 or something like that. And to kind of show you the speed that I've got now, if I set up the benchmark and go to sys speed, you can see we've got about 80 MIPS. So that's going to be about a 68060 running at, I want to say, about 66 megahertz maybe. A Vampire is faster than that. Vampire's around 100 MIPS. So, we're kind of targeting that level of performance. So let's go ahead and run the game again with that FPS counter. And I'm going to turn on some compiler flags and do some compiler optimizations that should hopefully increase performance. It's running really well now, but we want to make sure that we can squeeze as much performance out of it without really making any code changes. So let's go through that process. So let's go ahead and run this again. This is going to be a lot slower than it was before. So if I load the engine again, I don't think it's going to run on a stock OCS. Right now it's using SDL, which means the only way this will run is with RTG or retargetable graphics. So you need a Picasso 96 or a Cybervision or a Vampire. But I may look at actually making an AGA equivalent port as well. But right now it's just kind of low-hanging fruit. We're just using SDL to manage this. I think I'm going to make it full screen all the time, at least for now. Full screen seems to work fine. I don't know if I want to spend too much time messing around with why it doesn't work in windowed mode, because I don't think anyone would even be interested in playing it in windowed mode. And also it would slow down significantly. So this is actually loading. So we probably need to do something here. There's probably a loading screen or some kind of loading splash screen that should be here that's not. Because right now, if you don't really know what's going on, I mean, it feels like it's crashed, but I can tell you that it hasn't. So there's something missing here that we need to take a look at as well. So just give this another. Hopefully it shouldn't take too much longer. But I have heard and I've read about one of the biggest issues with OpenBOR is the loading times, even on more powerful hardware or the other ports that I've seen. There's a lot of talk about how long it takes to load. There it goes. I feel like on that screen there, that blue screen, there should be something being displayed as well. I'll have to go back and look at another port of it and see what the behavior is to figure what that is. So this is going to be around about an 060 performance. And again, this is just very rough estimates on how it would perform. I am going to bust out some real hardware and try it out at some point. But we still want to make sure we get this port working to where it needs to be. So I still haven't tested the joystick stuff and the 1-2 player stuff. So there's still a lot of things we need to do here as well before I feel confident that we can put it on real hardware and test it out there. But as you can see, it's a lot slower now. So this is real Amiga performance, I guess, is what we're looking at. It's taking about 2.5 minutes to load the game, so that may be something we need to look at. So if you look at that frame counter, it's kind of all over the place, but it's like 42, 52, and then kind of up to 60. Let's kind of just play through this a little bit. So as you can see, it's kind of dropping there into the 20s. So this is what it would probably run like as it stands on a 1260 Blizzard card or an 060 type performance. I mean, still quite playable. It's jerky though, and a 040 card, it may be half of this. It may be into the 10 to 12 frames per second. So we're starting to get pretty slow, and you can already kind of imagine an 030 or an 020. It's almost not worth it, right? So we are starting to slow down significantly here. However, let's try doing a couple of quick optimizations and see if it helps performance at all. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So let's jump out of here and go back to our code. So with the compilers, there's always some compiler optimizations that you can turn on, and there's nothing different about GCC compile for the Amiga. There are some optimizations we can do, so we're going to turn on a couple of them here. We're going to turn on this perform a number of minor optimizations, and basically what this means is that the compiler is going through all the code and figuring out the best ways it can optimize for performance. And without getting too complicated, it's really just reorganizing code, removing some code that it doesn't need, and really just optimizing for the target system that you're building for. There's also further optimizations we can do. And I'm going to start with just the first option, optimize, and turn that on, and then see how that performs, and then kind of take it to the next level. I find that if you turn on best optimization from the start, sometimes you get some weird behavior, some graphic glitches and some crashes. So I want to just kind of start with the optimize, turn that on, see what that looks like, and then kind of go from there. So let's try that. And now in order to do this, we have to clean and recompile everything. I need to turn chat on in my stream. Let me turn that on. While that's compiling. There we go. Okay, that's better. So that's compiled. Let's try that again. Hopefully we should get some better performance. pretty dull watching this this screen. Hey, what's up, Community Tech? Hey, thanks for the kind words, man. Yeah, I don't really do live streams. I really just kind of just do video content, but I thought this was interesting. I was working on a game port this weekend and thought I would show you guys how it looks. No, David, it just takes a long time to load. I think there's some kind of splash screen there or something, or some loading screen that should be there, but it's not, so I will have to take a look at that as well. So if you remember from previously, the performance was, it's kind of started out about 50 frames per second, and then we started fighting, and it kind of dropped to the 30s. So let's see if this performs any better. There's some more tweaks that we can do to improve performance as well. Yeah, it is really slow to load. I don't know if it would work better if you extracted the pack file and ran the game like that. It probably would run a little faster, but yeah, it's slow to load, and then coupled with the Amiga, with its disk I/O performance as well, it may take a while. Now, if you look at the frame rate counter, it's actually a lot higher than it was. It's kind of looks like, you know, 70, I see 90 in there as well, 66, 83. So already you can see there's faster frames here. So let's see what it looks like when we start fighting, because it was kind of dropping into the 20s. So that's running a lot faster. I still see a couple of drops into the 30s. But you can see we've got some more performance, some free performance. Okay, so let's try something else. So it's definitely getting better. Now, there's a compiler flag that we can enable to target 32-bit only. So right now, if I go back to WinUAE and look at the compiler options, we can say we want to target 68020 to 060. I think that's how you do it. Let's give that a try. Because what we're basically, when you build an Amiga project without specific compiler flags for 32-bit, it's going to build 68,000 code, which may not be as optimized for the 020 to 060 processors as it could be. So we're telling the compiler we want to target this for 68020 to 060 class processors. In other words, full 32-bit processors. And that will do some additional optimizations as well to help with performance. Now, I don't know if it's going to give us a lot more performance, but it should give us a little extra performance. Yeah, it's GCC, but Campbell. It's AmiDev CPP is the development interface or the development environment that I'm using, and under the covers, I believe it's GCC 2.9 or 2.7. It's definitely an old version of GCC, and it may not output the fastest Amiga code, but it's pretty good. I use it a lot. I've had a lot of success with this compiler. But, you know, I've heard stories about SASC and VBCC being a lot faster than this compiler. So we've built this and we've included the 020 to 060 compiler flag. Let's try that again, see if it runs any faster. Now we have to sit and watch this boring screen for about 2 minutes before something happens. Yeah, this test is on WinUAE, and the way that I normally work is once it's completed or once I feel good enough to a point where I think everything's working the way it should, I'll take it on real hardware and start testing it there. I'm going to kill this for now until it comes back. Yeah, sometimes there are differences. I've seen situations where things will run on real hardware, but they'll fail on the emulator, or they'll fail on the emulator. They'll work on the emulator, but fail on real hardware. I've seen all sorts of weird things. WinUAE is pretty accurate as far as the emulation is concerned, but I've seen a couple of weird and wacky things occasionally. Here we go. So let's see what this runs like now. Reminds me of the old C64 loading days. Is OS4 worth emulating? You know, I actually have OS 4.1. I bought the CD, the final edition. I think it's pretty cool to mess around with, but I didn't really have much of a use for it. But I do think it's an interesting OS to play around with if you haven't looked at it before. But I don't know. For me, I don't really have a reason to use it. I'm not really into the PowerPC stuff or the later Amiga hardware after the classic stuff. I'm really into the classic Amiga stuff, and that's really about it for me. Okay, so we're back in the game, and it's hard to tell if it's any faster at this point, so let's kind of just jump into some gameplay. But I'm seeing, you know, 65, it's dropping to the 40s occasionally, but it looks like the frame rate, again, is a little better. It's just that it's kind of all over the place. It's really hard to read it. There's a couple of 40s there, but it's definitely improving. Yeah, this is running really well now. Okay, let's try one more thing and see if we can squeeze a few more FPS out of this thing. But this is running pretty well, and this is very, very playable now. So let's kill this. And go back to our code. I am going to turn on the next round of optimizations. I'm just going to go to best optimization. Just go all the way here. Hopefully it won't mess anything up. See what this does. Is this fun, guys? We having fun today? This is pretty awesome, huh? We've got some live Amiga porting going on. Emit frame pointer. Yeah, I may throw that in as well. Emit frame pointer is usually a good one. That will definitely help. Campbell, it really varies. That's a good question. It really varies on the source code that you use. Some of them, some ports can take weeks, you know, to build, to get all the kind of compiler errors out of. But some of them that have good kind of established code that have been around for a while, like this one, they port fairly cleanly. So I really had no idea that it would go this quickly, to be honest. And you know, I don't want you guys to think I'm, you know, I'm super fast at porting. It really depends on the source code that you get. Sometimes you get really good code, like, you know, OpenBOR has been around for a while, but I've had some instances where I've spent weeks on something, and you know, you guys probably know who Novacoder is in the Amiga scene. He did the Wolfenstein port and the Doom port and the Scum VM stuff. I can assure you the Scum VM port would have taken him quite a long time to get up and running. So let's try with the best optimization flag turned on, how that performs. I think at this point we'll get hopefully we'll get a little bit more performance, but it's not going to be much more than what we have. It's really, we're just kind of fine-tuning it now. Vasily, basically it's 01, 02, and 03. So in other words, if you go back to the project options, optimize is 01, optimize more is 02, and best is 03. And I'm in 1080. Actually, yeah, I'm not sure if you can see that, but under the covers, it's builds a make file to use, and I can see it's using O3. So currently the compiler flags that I have, I'm going to paste them in the chat. These are the things I have currently for the build. Yeah, I think O2 might be the best kind of between speed and bloat. I do know O3 tends to bloat the executable quite a bit. I use O3 with a lot of care because I have seen a lot of issues with just compiling with O3, especially on the Amiga. And this could very well actually slow it down. So let's see what this looks like. Mod Robert, no, not emulating MMU. And yeah, not emulating FPU. And the reason why I'm doing that is for the Vampire 2. So I want to target this not only for, you know, high-end Amigas, but I want it to run on the Vampire 2. So as soon as if we turn on FPU, then that's going to cause a problem with Vampire 2, at least for now until they get the FPU stuff in place. So we've got the best compiler option, the best optimization on, and I'm not really sure if it's any faster. It may actually be a little slower. So I think I'm going to go ahead and set it back to 01, or maybe let's try 02 maybe. Let's maybe try 02. Optimize more. But really, we're getting we're talking about very, very small gains now at this point. I think we've taken as far as we can for the most part without, you know, if it needs to be faster at this point, it's really a couple of options here is completely remove SDL and get some more performance that way, or start writing assembly code to manage some of this stuff. And I'm not very skilled with assembly language at all, and it kind of goes against the way that I port things anyway, because when I port something, you know, I don't want to spend too much time once the port is done, but I will spend a little bit of time trying to optimize. Okay, so that's done. Let's try with 02. Hey, Mezcal. Hi from Melbourne. Awesome. Another Melbourne boy. Good to see. So yeah, we'll have to figure out what's going on with this here. I'm sure there's a loading screen here or some type of indicator here. Have a look at save temps file and pass that through a... I'm not really sure what that means. So is it there's a compiler flag called save temps, David? I may have to do some reading up on that. I'm not familiar with that. All right, let's see what this is like. Yeah, this is definitely running better. I'm not seeing the drops to the 40s here as much as the 03 was. There's a couple of drops there. But I guess as there's more sprites on the screen that need to move around, it does tend to choke the CPU a little. Yeah, emit frame pointer. Let's try that as well. That's a good idea. Okay, so let's go back to the compiler and project options and add in f omit frame pointer. pile. So while we're waiting on this, what kind of Amigas do you guys have? And I saw a couple of guys that had mentioned what they're running. I've got a couple of different ones. I've got an A1200, which is my main Amiga of choice, but I've also got a 600 with a Vampire in it. I got a 500 and I got a 4000, so I've got quite a few of them. Yeah, I agree, Mod Robert. Porting to SAS-C is a pain. I have thought about using VBCC for some stuff. It's obviously still being developed for, and I keep being told that it generates really fast code. So I may try that for another port at some point, but I don't know if it's worth going back and trying to use VBCC for something like this. JJ, yeah, I hear you, man. Amiga hardware, especially over the last, you know, 2 or 3 years, has gone just through the roof. It's just skyrocketed. If you can get hold of Amiga hardware and it's cheap, I would just buy it. I wouldn't hesitate. The prices of the resellers or people that are selling stuff for is crazy. But Amiga hardware's always been expensive, I think. You know, accelerated cards from back in the day in the 90s when the third-party suppliers would sell accelerators and hard drives and add-ons. Hardware was never cheap. What do I think about the Powered PC stuff? I think there's definitely a place for it in the community and in in the Amiga kind of world or the landscape. It's just really not something that I'm interested in, to be honest. I did dabble around with MorphOS for a while. I've got a Mac Mini with MorphOS on it, and it's pretty cool. But I'm a big fan of classic hardware, and really that's the only thing I'm interested in. I do definitely respect the PowerPC stuff, and I think it's very interesting. It's just not something that I'm really that interested in, especially for developing for. I think for me, it's really about doing these types of ports on Amiga hardware that it was never really meant for in the first place. You know what I mean? I think that's really what gets me interested in doing these types of things. Oops, let's go back. I like the Ataris too. I mean, I have an Atari ST as well, which I like to mess around with. But I will say that I grew up with Commodore. I was a VIC-20 guy, then a C64 guy, and Amiga guy. But I do like Atari hardware as well. I've got a 8-bit Atari and a Atari ST. Was Alien Breed 2 ever playable on high-end Amigas before? That's a great question. I don't think so. I mean, that game was kind of developed for hardware that didn't even exist. I think you can run it okay on fast, 040 or 060, but you have to really reduce a ton of settings to make that work. Yeah, both the ST and the Amiga use the Motorola 68000, but obviously the ST, in its standard form, at least the 520 ST, didn't have any custom chips. I think the STEs and some of the later STs did have custom blitter chips in there as well. Not really sure if this helped performance or not, but it certainly didn't hurt it, so I'm going to leave the omit frame pointer flag in there as well. And I think without doing some code changes and some code refactoring, that this is about as fast as this is going to get, which is pretty good. I'm going to try a couple of other games that I downloaded. Some of them will be different. There may be some that are a lot more taxing on the CPU than this. So let's kind of try that here in a second. I'm not really sure if I can just get back to the menu without quitting. I'll have to figure that out. Hey, what's up, Dan? Thanks for joining the stream. I love the Retro Hour. I'm addicted to your podcast. Keep up the good work. Let's try this Final Fight Apocalypse. No, Minaj, I didn't write this game. This is a port. I mean, anyone that could write a game in 24 hours like this, I think the best games developers in the world would have probably acquired them by now. This is a port, and ports obviously are a lot quicker than writing a game from scratch. JJ, you should listen to the Retro Hour. It's a brilliant podcast. Just subscribe and download all the back library. I think there's about 70 of them now, and it's really awesome. Campbell, I do for a living. I'm a software developer by trade, but it's all business software and things like that. It's nothing fun like this. So. Nostalgia Nerd, thanks for joining, man. This is running on emulation right now, so this is WinUAE, and this is how I write or port Amiga software. For those that just joined while this game is taking a million hours to load, I'll kind of show you the process that I work with. So this development language here is C code, and I'm using Windows to build the Amiga stuff. And it's basically a cross-compiler. So I'm cross-compiling this code on a PC for 68,000, which will run on an Amiga. And then to test that, I fire up WinUAE on the same machine to test my code. It's very rapid kind of development and testing and debugging. And once I've kind of got all the kinks out of the code and everything looks good, that's when I take it to real hardware and see what that performs like. Sometimes it works great, sometimes things don't work, and you have to go ahead and make some more changes. But I use WinUAE to develop on and debug and test, and then move over to real hardware when it's ready to go. as you can see, we've still got some things we've got to figure out here. This is actually loading. It hasn't crashed. It's just taking a long time. Yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed to the Retro Hour podcast, I suggest you do it. It's fantastic. A lot of Amiga content on there, which I'm a big fan of. And Nostalgia Nerd has an awesome YouTube channel. Check out both Dan's podcast and Nostalgia Nerd YouTube channel. Oh wow, this is taking forever. We'll definitely have to figure out if we can speed this up somehow. Just loading. Although with the current batch of Xbox One and PS4 games, this is kind of normal again. Long loading screens. Right now, it's not running on AGA. This is running on RTG, retargetable graphics. So if you have a Vampire 2 or a graphics card, this will run on that. But I will probably go ahead and retarget or port to AGA as well. It just depends on how well it runs on real hardware. Let's see how this works. I really want to get an idea of the performance on different mods that I can download. Amiga OS podcast. I've got to check that out. I actually don't know about that one. Is that on iTunes as well? Because I'll definitely subscribe to that as well. So this one's running pretty good too. But you can see as there's more sprites on the screen, it does slow down a little. It's certainly nothing to worry about. This is some kind of Final Fight ripoff. It's pretty awesome actually. I suck, as always, at these kind of games. But that frame rate counter is pretty stable there. And just for those people that just joined, what I'm doing is, this is simulation of 060 performance that you would get on an 060 processor. Probably a faster 060, or probably around 66 megahertz. So this may actually work pretty okay on some real hardware. I don't think an 030 is going to cut it. I think you do need a fairly fast Amiga. If anyone's familiar with OpenBOR and knows about a mod that's got a lot of activity, a lot of sprites on the screen at once, let me know. I'd be interested to test that out. I'm really looking for something that will just cripple performance. I'll try a couple of these other ones. Try this Armored Warriors one. This will definitely work well on the Vampire Dan. It'll probably run a little faster than what you're seeing here, because I've disabled just in time and I've dragged the CPU speed to about 50% of the fastest speed. And I've set it to 68040 in WinUAE settings. And when I ran sysspeed earlier, it's running at about 70 MIPS. And I believe a Vampire 2 runs at about 100 MIPS, so it should actually run faster than this on Vampire hardware. Hey, Nostalgia Nerd. Yeah, you should definitely pick one up. I did read a story that Amiga Kit now has the Vampire 2s, or they're stocking the Vampire 2s, so you don't have to get on the long waiting list. But I do know that currently they don't have any in stock, but once Amiga Kit gets a big chunk of stock for the Vampire 2, I would jump on it. I'm sure they'll sell quickly, but it's actually really awesome that Amiga Kit is starting to sell or resell the Vampire 2. These are bigger sprites. Yeah. They sell pretty fast, Vasily. They don't last very long, man. So I would kind of keep an eye on that website pretty much every day. I have a Vampire 2 Amiga 600. I'm on the list for the A500 version. I've been on the list for about, I don't know, 6 months now. So, like everyone else, I guess. So if Amiga Kit actually gets them before my number comes up on the list, I'll just get one from there. Yeah, it's definitely a wait, but hopefully now that Amiga Kit's involved, they will get them out to you guys a lot quicker. Let's try this Castlevania Symphony of Destruction, which I'm sure is a ripoff of Symphony of the Night. Yeah, I agree. I was really lucky and I got in early as well. So I got my Vampire 2 a long time ago, in fact, maybe almost a year ago now. It seems like it's almost been a year. But yeah, if you don't get in early, then you're going to be waiting a while. But like I said, hopefully Amiga Kit will help with the demand and get them out to folks a lot quicker. So I guess next steps from here with this port is there's still a few things I need to fix up. See if I can get faster loading speed out of this thing. I don't know if I can, but I'll definitely give it a try. And also the issue with the windowed mode. I'm probably just going to not bother with the windowed mode and just force it to full screen. Right now this doesn't support AGA, so I think I'm going to add AGA support. Just depends on how fast it runs. But I'm probably going to do a follow-up video on the testing on real Amiga hardware. So I have real Amiga hardware, but I don't have any set up right now. So I think maybe next weekend I'm going to set up my A4000 and my A600 with a Vampire in it and my 1260 060 Amiga 1200 and just test them all out. And I'll stream each of those and see how well it runs. So this is Symphony of Destruction. It's pretty amazing how they do these types of ports. They completely rip off Castlevania make some kind of Symphony of the Night clone. I'm trying to play it like Symphony of the Night. I'm trying to move this way and have the screen scroll with me, but I keep forgetting this is a beat 'em up. This one doesn't control very well. There we go. Gotta say, the control on this one's a little weird. I'm not sure if it's the game or if it's the controls. Alright, let's try another one. Try Evil Dead 2. $2,400 in queue. That's hilarious. I mean, I wonder where I am in that queue. Probably 23,075. Yeah, these are all fan-made games that use the Beats of Rage engine. Some of them are really cool to play. Some of them are a little wonky. Some of them are demos where the developer will do a couple of levels and then you pay for the kind of full version. Haven't come across those. So I'll definitely kind of do some digging on which ones are good and which ones aren't. But the cool part is all these are working so far. Double Dragon version. I've got that on my menu. I'll definitely try that as well. There's a Strider in there as well, so I'm a big fan of Strider. This looks scary. Right now, Stuart, I'm using WinUAE. I'm not using an Amiga at all. But I will move it to Amiga hardware. Look at that frame rate. That's really struggling there. 7 FPS. Not sure why it's so slow on this particular port. Yeah, this one's unplayable. So I don't think all of these are going to work as well as others. Yeah, I'm emulating an 060-04000, Carl. So this is kind of what you should expect on an 060 type Amiga. Alright, I'm going to kill this one. This one's almost a slideshow. Let's try that Double Dragon. Double Dragon. I love that Double Dragon music. Hopefully it'll be in this this port. Love the music. Hey Carlos, this will run, I think it's going to run pretty well on real Amiga hardware, so don't be too discouraged. Oh yeah, this is my jam right here. Yeah, this is a lot of fun, this one. Yeah, I guess it depends on the size of the sprites and the number of sprites on the screen. These ones, obviously, the sprites are a little smaller. Oh my god, getting my ass kicked. This one's tough. Maybe I just not very good. See that big guy bust out of the garage here. See if that happens. No, it doesn't. You know, I did like the Double Dragon 2 port on the Amiga. If you guys have not seen that, I suggest you check it out. It's got amazing, amazing title music. One of the best on the Amiga, in my opinion. And the game plays really well. Double Dragon 2 on the Amiga. Definitely check it out. Big fan of that one. Let's try Strider. Yeah, the original Amiga port of Double Dragon wasn't great, but like I said, check out number 2. It's pretty good. But you know, I will say that there wasn't... I don't know if there was a really good Double Dragon port on any system when that game had come out. I remember the abysmal C64 version. Yeah, Double Dragon C64. Fun times. It was a bit of a mess, but I think there was like 2 ports of that game. There was like the Melbourne House version and then the Ocean version. I think one of them was better than the other, but my memory's a little fuzzy on that one. Let's try this Strider game. Already there's marks off for not using the classic Strider tune. Double Dragon on the ST. Yeah, I should check that out. I mean, I can see why that would probably run better than the Amiga version. since it has a slightly faster CPU. This looks pretty cool. Beat 'em up Strider. Interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on here as well. Wow. This is punishing. Yeah, I may need to hook up a joystick or a arcade stick or something. It doesn't really cut it with the keyboard. Yeah, this has got a lot of Capcom ripped graphics. I do know there's actually a guy on the English Amiga forums that's porting Final Fight to AGA, and you want to maybe look at that thread. He's got some really good progress going on it. I've been kind of keeping my eye on that one. Having a good Final Fight port on the Amiga would be awesome. Yeah, this is pretty hard to take. There's a lot of clash of colors as well, and I can really barely see what's going on here. I'm gonna move on to the next one. I'm gonna try a couple more and maybe finish it up here in the next kind of 10 or 15 minutes. Let's try Asterisk. Oh, that one actually looked like it crashed. An error shutting down. Can't compile script. I'll need to look at that. I'm not sure if that's the download or if there's an error in the code. Let's try another one. Beats of Rage Remix 2. Let's try this one. Rhythm of Destruction. The worst arcade to 16-bit computer console port was Street Fighter 2. Well, on the Amiga it was. But there are some really good 16-bit Street Fighter 2 ports, as we know. For example, the Super Nintendo version and the Sega Genesis version. As well as, if you guys have seen the Sharp X68000 port, I think the 3DO port of Super Turbo is pretty good too. There's some really good Street Fighter ports. It's just the Amiga ports you're thinking of. Street Fighter 1. I don't know. I mean, I kind of wish I'd played that in the arcades. Street Fighter 1 with that big punch button on the cabinet, the arcade cabinet. Yeah, I agree. You know, I will say though, I didn't think there were the fighting games versus fighting games on the Amiga were very good. Body Blows was okay. It was decent. But I didn't think it was very well developed with fighting games in mind. Which is a bit of a shame because I think there could be some real good ones. Now there was one fighting game that came out later on in the Amiga's life, which was coded really well, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was a pretty decent versus fighting game. Shadow Fighter, that's the one I was thinking of. I'm pretty sure that's the one I was thinking of. That's a pretty good Pretty good versus fighting game. Good sprites, and it had that Mode 7 thing going on with the ground graphics where it would scroll Mode 7 style. Fighting Spirit. I think that was pretty good too. I'd never really played that very much though. This one's taking a while. I think this one's a bigger one. Capital Punishment. Yeah, Dan, I tried that one. I thought that was pretty good too. Obviously, the less said about Rise of the Robots, the better. That was a pretty awful game. Elfmania, was that a fighting game, a versus fighting game? I thought that was some kind of side scroller. Oh, this is weird. This flickering green stuff. I like this music. This is definitely SNK ripoff. Looks like these sprites have been ripped off from King of the Fighters 98. Yeah, let me check out Elfmania again. There's a couple of games that I don't remember too well. Got Rise of the Robots for Christmas. It came on 15 discs. Yeah, I heard about that. That's pretty bad. I think I played it on the SNES, and I was pretty bummed about it. I didn't buy it. I think I rented it for the SNES, and man, it was terrible. Do you remember King of the Fighters? Yeah, absolutely, Minaj. I've actually got an arcade cabinet with some Neo Geo cartridges. So yeah, I've got some King of the Fighters games as well. So I'm a big fan of King of the Fighters SNK games. Runs pretty well. Dig the music. Try one more. I thought Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 would do... Yeah, I mean, I agree. I thought, especially Mortal Kombat 2, that really kind of came out of nowhere and surprised me. I think Probe Software did both of those, and they were really good at arcade conversions. So, yeah, I like both MK1 and MK2 on the Amiga. Just make sure you install it to your hard drive or play the WHD load version, because the disc swapping in that game is a little can get a little tiresome as well. So, David, I think what I'm going to do is take a look at another port of OpenBOR for another system and see what... I'm pretty sure there's some kind of loading please wait screen or some kind of progress bar. So I think there's another bug somewhere where it's not displaying those graphics. So I'll definitely take a look at that. There's a couple of things that we need to tweak here. Let's look at Golden Axe Legend. Probe did Savage. Savage is a great game. Love that game. But yeah, there needs to be, I'm pretty sure there's some kind of graphic here. So hopefully that won't be too hard to track down and fix as well in the code. Can you tell me the approximate size of a good gaming title? It looks like they're about, I want to say about between 20 to kind of 50 meg in size. So hopefully you've got a compact flash or, I mean, forget about floppy disks for something like this, or if you've got a compact flash solution for your Amiga, it should be fine. But I think the Beats of Rage, the kind of the default game, looked like it was about. Actually, let me pull it up here real quick, and I'll tell you exactly how big it is. Wow, 3 gigabytes. I'm not sure if this is frozen. No, it's actually still loading. So the Beats of Rage pack file, just the standard Beats of Rage, or the vanilla one, looks like it's about 60 something meg in size. So if you want to kind of grab all of them, yeah, it's 3 gigabytes. So you could easily fill up a compact flash card or a hard disk with this stuff. If I look at the ones that I downloaded while that's loading, everything in the list that I had in my menu comes out to about 621 megabytes. The one that I'm loading now, this Golden Axe Legends, is 38 megabytes. I don't know if this is actually going to work. This may have actually locked up. It's going to give it one more minute. Yeah, Golden Axe is an awesome game. That's a good Amiga port. I like the Amiga Golden Axe port. But, you know, the Genesis or the Sega Mega Drive version obviously is pretty damn good too. Alright, I'm going to kill this one. I don't believe this is actually working. Yep, I think it's locked my Amiga up. I'm going to start again. Let's try this last one down here. World Heroes Supreme Justice. This is another SNK Neo Geo type fighting game, I'm sure. This will probably be the last one I try for today, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here in about 10 minutes. But I think next weekend, if you guys are interested, I'll set up another live stream and I'll have some Amigas set up so we can start seeing how it performs on real hardware, and I'll get the game ready to go, and I'll definitely release it on Aminet and to the wild, probably in the next week or so. So you guys can play around with it, those that have the appropriate hardware. Yeah, I'll definitely check out Elfmania. Operation Wolf. Now that's an awesome game. That's definitely an arcade cabinet I've always wanted, with the Uzi machine guns bolted to the control panel. There's just something awesome about owning one of those machines in your home. You are brave porting live. Well, hey, thanks, Campbell. Yeah, I mean, this one actually went pretty well, you know. But just really wanted to give you guys an inside look on what it takes to get something working on the Amiga. Oh my god, loading. Yeah, I mean, it looks like for the most part, most of these Beats of Rage engine games will work. I mean, I think there's going to be some exceptions to that, but I think the compatibility will be pretty high. Oh wow, this is painful. If you guys ever have used a Neo Geo CD before, you might be familiar with the loading screens. There's a dancing monkey or a juggling monkey that's kind of juggling balls while the game's loading. It's pretty fun to watch. Something to look at while the game's loading. Yeah, there's a lot of games made for this engine, and it's still a pretty active community today, as far as I know. I know there's some kind of Mortal Kombat ripoff with Mortal Kombat graphics as well. There's a lot of stuff out there. It's really about what's good and what's not good. Finding what the good ones are. But I'm sure if you watch YouTube videos on open Beats of Rage games, you can get a pretty good idea about what's good and what isn't fairly quickly. Mod Robert, yeah, right now it's RTG and the sound is running using AHI, so this is fairly generic in that sense. I will look at making an AGA specific port, and the reason for that is, you know, those people that have fast Blizzard accelerator cards in their Amiga 1200 would probably benefit from this as well. So I'm definitely going to look at an AGA port at some point. As far as the sound, I mean, I think it's all just a bunch of WAV files. So the way that Open Beats of Rage works is there's no emulation at all. It's not emulating anything. It's really just loading a whole bunch of assets. In other words, it's loading images and sound files and script files to, and then there's a scripting engine and there's a game engine that manages, you know, the enemies and the movements and all that stuff. So the sound files, I believe, are just kind of WAV files or maybe OGG files that just kind of get streamed through the Amiga sound chip via AHI. All right, well, this isn't really getting anywhere, so let me try one more, and then we'll call it. I kind of got tired of waiting for that. I'm not sure if it actually crashed or not. We'll have to find out later. I'm making a note of the ones that aren't working as well. Let's try Vampire Hunters. Yeah, nothing's being emulated. I mean, I'm not really sure, if I'm understanding your question correctly, Manoj, but it's not using any custom Amiga custom chips, so there's no blitter that's being used here, as far as I know. It's really just using the CPU. But when I talk about OpenBOR as an engine, there's nothing that's being emulated in that particular piece of code. So there's no CPU emulation in OpenBOR. There's no sound emulation in OpenBOR. Let's see how big this one is. This one's 20 meg. It's actually smaller than the others. Yeah, it's taking a while as well. I think there's still a couple of things I need to look at. Compatibility is, it looks like it's around maybe 65 to 70%. There's still a bunch of these that don't want to work. Or maybe I'm just not being patient enough. Let me crank on just in time and speed this right up again and see if that makes any difference. Yeah, I think this one may have not survived as well. Well, let's do one more. I want to finish on a high here. I don't want to finish on a whole bunch that don't work. So let's try one more before we finish this up for today. Let's try Conquest, Mortal Kombat Conquest. Wonder what this is like. Here we go. That was fast. The Elevator, the Deadpool. Let's pick one. Not available in so these are one of those ones where there's a kind of a demo that's been made available, but if you want the full price game, then you kind of pay for it. So let's play around with this one. Looks pretty cool. Alright. It's definitely got the Mortal Kombat 2 feel to it. I'm not sure if this is... Not sure if this is the most fun, but it looks good. Fighting a whole bunch of scorpions and... Yeah, I need to be careful about copyright strikes. Hopefully nothing's played that's triggered the copyright strike. Yeah, I turned the speed way back up again. I was getting tired of waiting for the loading. That's why it's back to 1000 FPS. I've got just in time re-enabled, so that's why it's performing so fast. Kill that. I don't want to get flagged. I probably already got flagged, but no worries. All right, guys. Well, I am going to end it here for today. So we made some really good progress today. We've got the engine running, and it's playable, and performance seems to be pretty decent. So I'm going to work on fixing some of those issues that I found, some of the packs that don't load, and see what's going on with the loading screens as kind of the next steps. I'll probably do that during the week, and next weekend I'll get my Amigas set up in here and we'll do some testing and see how well it runs, and if we get the thumbs up there, we'll share the love and get it distributed out onto Aminet and everywhere else. So hopefully we'll get some good performance on some different types of Amigas. Want to say thanks for everyone for coming out to watch this stream today. And yeah, I'm definitely, it's just hit lunchtime here, so I am going to actually grab a beer and some lunch. So I hope you guys enjoyed the stream today, and stay tuned for the next one where we try it out on some real hardware. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Ciao.